Hi, this is Jon Burcaw, and I'm reading my book, The Sidecar Kings. I hope you've enjoyed all that you've heard so far. Today, chapters 11, 12, and 13. Chapter 11 begins with a picture. After the storm. The campers were making so much noise inside the rec center, no one realized the storm had blown itself out, and the first rays of sun appeared through the battered windows. Dave and a couple other counselors cautiously opened up the front doors to see what kind of damage the storm had caused. From their vantage point, they could see lots of downed limbs and leaves strewn about. Decorations from the cabin porches were littered everywhere. The pool had become a depository for the lounge chairs that had originally been placed around the pool. The wind neatly cleaned the area, blowing everything in its path into the pool. Dave mused, "Could have been a lot worse, I suppose. Nothing we can't fix from what I can see." Martin had been standing with the counselors and concurred. "Yeah, we are lucky. Oh, wait a minute. Something doesn't look right over at the picnic pavilion." All eyes found the pavilion and tried to reorganize the scene before the storm. "Oh boy," Dave lamented. "The big old maple that was next to the pavilion is now on top of the pavilion. Looks like the roof down there is badly damaged." "We are still lucky," Martin replied cheerfully. "We can continue camp. We can work without a pavilion. The camp crew can get the place back into shape in no time. Our biggest challenge now is the gap we have in the schedule this afternoon." Dave cautioned, "The riders surely must have bailed. I have a kid in my cabin that was really looking forward to his first sidecar ride." "Not so fast, Dave," Martin said. "Never underestimate a Harley rider on a mission. I've been trying to raise them since the middle of the storm, but haven't had any luck." "I got a cryptic text from JD, Dave replied. "They must have weathered the storm on Eagle Mountain. They were trying to make time through the Narrows when the storm hit up there. I only got part of his text message, though. Self-service isn't very good up there, even on a good day." Martin had also received a text from Bear saying the same thing. They would never leave us hanging without any kind of contact. Unless something happened to them all. Dave finished. Martin grimaced at that thought and headed down to check out the pavilion damage. Dave and the rest of the counselors went back inside to release the kids into the storm-battered camp. They would never forget this day. When Dave returned inside, the campers were already waiting at the door. When he gave the all clear, they scampered out any way they could. It reminded him of toll booth traffic at rush hour. 8 lanes into 2, as all the wheelchairs jockeyed for position to get through the doorway. Looking past the rush, he saw one camper who hadn't moved towards the door. TJ was facing the corner as if he was being punished. Dave made his way through the throng at the doorway and walked across the now empty rec center floor. "Hey, T, let's get out of here. We'll head back to the cabin and whip up some of those marshmallow smoothies you told us about last night." Dave could see TJ was trying miserably to hold back tears. "I don't feel like going back to the cabin, Dave. There's nothing to do there except talk about stuff that'll never happen. All the guys got me excited for a ride in a sidecar, and now that's not going to happen. You can't be a sidecar king unless you rode in a sidecar." "Ah, so that's the reason for the long face. You know, TJ, there's no crying in camp. And as for the sidecar rides, I don't know for sure, buddy, but I suspect that'll all take care of itself," Dave offered. "Dave, how do you know so much about everything?" TJ angrily jabbed back. Dave hesitated for a moment and looked away. TJ looked up and noticed Dave was choking back his own tears. Dave, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. No, it's okay, buddy. Just that I haven't heard those words in years. My kid brother used to say that to me all the time. In fact, you remind me a lot of him. Was he in a wheelchair too, Dave? Like me? Yep. He had SMA too. Where is he now, Dave? How come he isn't at camp with you? TJ, my brother, is in heaven now. He passed away about 10 years ago. He got real sick one winter, and he never got better. After a long silence, TJ replied, a couple campers told me the other day we were really lucky to have you as a counselor, that you were special somehow. They said anybody could tell you were cool just by looking at your eyes. So that's the story behind your eyes, isn't it? Dave smiled gently. Yeah, that could be it. What do you think's going to happen to me and to Connor and the rest of the guys? TJ asked without fear and very matter-of-factly. Wiping away his last tear, Dave replied, Don't know, buddy. I don't know. But I do know you can sit there and think about how crappy everything is and let it take you down. Or you can get ready for the next something special. It's your choice. It's up to you, little man. After some pondering, TJ replied, Dave, there's no crying in camp. Dave laughed quietly again and said finally, You got me good that time. Keep this between you and me, TJ. Got it? Got it, Dave. Oh, and one other thing. What's that, TJ? Thanks, Dave. Thanks for everything. No, buddy. Thank you. Dave nodded toward the rec center doors and said, You should see the camp. Looks like a small tornado went through out there. We're lucky nobody got hurt. Let's head back to the cabin. I sure hope we didn't leave any windows open. TJ finally cracked a smile and joined Dave, and the two headed back to the cabin together. Chapter 12 begins with a picture. Out of the storm, through the woods. Big Bear had resumed leading the riders and was trying to make up for some lost time. He was good at that. Miraculously, no man, woman, or machine had sustained any serious damage. Bear thanked his lucky stars. Bear was not the kind of man who would ever put someone in harm's way on purpose. He was very relieved none of his friends got hurt. As they continued into the valley, he spotted a local police car along the side of the road. He raised his hand and gave the all stop, and the riders all pulled up behind him. At first, the cop was a bit unsure about what was unfolding behind him. Bear dismounted from his bike and walked up to the open window. He flashed a huge smile. Hey there, officer. We're headed to the MDA camp down the road. Those sidecar rigs behind me should have campers in them by now. We got a little sidetracked up on Eagle Mountain because of the storm. Bear paused to check for the officer's reaction. Any chance you can help us make some noise so those kids down there know we're coming? The cop slowly broke into a knowing smile. I know you. You're a Big Bear, aren't you? Well, yeah, sometimes. You can call me anything you want, though. Just don't call me late for dinner. Bear poked his own belly and waited for a moment and then added, Real fun at that time of day. The riders behind him all laughed out loud at the obvious comment. The officer looked at Bear's size and again at his big smile and instantly became a fan. Bear, I'll do you even better than that. I'll escort you there myself. The cop switched on his lights, pulled out onto the road, and waited for all the riders to remount their iron horses and position themselves behind him. When everyone was ready, he activated the sirens, and the parade began. This is so cool. Chapter 13. TJ was sitting on the cabin 22 porch with Connor, and the two were laughing about the furniture in the pool when TJ first heard the sound. You hear that, Connor? Hear what, the sirens? No, the rumble, that low rumbling sound. Sheesh, TJ, all I hear are sirens. Wait. I do hear a rumble. Sounds like rolling thunder. You know what that is, TJ? Harley motorcycles, he said in a whisper, then raising his voice in disbelief. They made it, Connor. The Harleys are coming after all. They saw the flashing lights on top of the police car first. Their ears had already picked up the siren, and they could almost feel the rumble of the bikes before they actually heard them. As the police car turned into the camp entrance, TJ could see the motorcycle headlights following closely behind. His earlier dismay turned to unbridled joy. They're here, Connor. Oh, man, they made it through the storm. How cool is that? Connor looked on and smiled. Hey, kid, it's kind of like I said after all, huh? They're not riding in from the sky on a bolt of lightning, but this is pretty close. Bear was the first bike behind the police escort, followed by the 7 sidecars in a single file, and then the remaining riders. The bikes took a parade lap around the camp access road, waving, beeping their horns, and revving their motors as they made their way past the camp friends. TJ and Connor were on the porch of cabin 22 when the riders slowly went by. The counselors and the boys had just rehung their cabin 22 sign, the Sidecar King's banner. Connor and TJ were soon joined by Eddie, Sean, Ethan, and Dave. They all waved and gave the thumbs up to the riders. Their sign seemed to get a lot of extra attention. TJ saw one sidecar that stood out from all the others. His friends told him to look for a black sidecar that looked like part of a fighter jet. They told him that sidecar was attached to a Harley-Davidson Road King, the Road King motorcycle, the only Road King motorcycle in the bunch. And it still is. TJ knew that he was looking at the special machine. The boys left the porch and headed to the loading zone where all the riders were parking. TJ went straight for the jet black ride. My friends at home will never believe this, he said to no one in particular. He was about to become a member of a very exclusive club. Dave remained on the porch and pulled out his camera as he watched TJ wheel his way to the waiting rigs. He clicked off a couple of pictures. He thought to himself, I'm going to send that one to Webster's Dictionary and tell them to use that photo to portray the word joy. He ran to join the rest of his cabin. The real fun was just beginning. This ends the reading.